Dina's. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Sorry, I'm not used to doing these online anymore.
Yep.
It's been nice not being online. All right. Trying to access my agenda as well as 4 other things. So apologies. All right. First thing's call the meeting to order. The next thing is, what's the next thing, Brian? Oh, there it is. Agenda approval. Oh, wait. I guess first we should take note of who's here. Oh, it looks like Pat's here. So it looks like we're all
roll and then agenda approval.
Make a note that we're all accounted for. Agenda approval. Did anybody have any questions about today's agenda or additions or subtractions, anything like that?
No, good with as presented.
No, sir. Nope, none.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll take the agenda as presented, and we'll move to the public comment period. Is there anybody waiting to give public comment right now online? Do we have anybody lined up, Dina?
There's one person that has raised their hand.
Oh, great. Okay, well, there's a little message I got to read before we take public comment, and then we'll go ahead and take that. At this time, we will provide time for residents to comment on items not on the agenda. First, a few ground rules. Snoqualmie residents who are not present have the right to have their elected representatives perform their duties on behalf of the city in an efficient and orderly manner. Therefore, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please wait to be recognized and state your name and city of residence for the record. Direct your comments to the council, committee, commission as a whole, not to individual members. Please note that this is not a time to ask questions of the council, committee, or commission, mayor, or staff, or to engage in debate. Public comments during this portion of the meeting shall be limited to topics concerning current, future, or requested city projects, actions, programs, plans, and regulations. Comments not pertaining to these subjects and matters are not germane and may result in your comment being suspended. And last, please respect the decorum of these proceedings, as all due respect will be afforded you. So with that, who do we have online to give public comment?
Catherine Podschwit.
All right, great. Let's go to Catherine.
Hello, everybody. Catherine Podschwit, Snoqualmie resident. Apparently, we don't give addresses anymore. There you go. So I just want to start with saying major praise to our Parks and Public Works Department, especially in these crazy times with the winter weather. I always feel better, especially in my old house in downtown Snoqualmie, that you guys are on the case. So thank you. But one thing I did want to just say a brief thing about was I've been trying to, I think I've been going the wrong places, but I wanted to talk about kind of our state of signage within the city and wayfinding specifically, in that I think we can do a better job with our visitors coming to town in pointing them in the right direction to our business community. Like there's, just like there's a sign on the ridge that points to dining and coffee, and it's only to the Mod Pizza and Starbucks, when the other side of the street are people that have invested a lot of time, money, rent, all the stuff to provide services to our community at large. And I know that they would want our visitors to our town to be directed to them as well. And there is not an arrow pointing to the Infusions, Francesco's, and Himitsu's of the world. And even just the arrows in general are like little circles. You have to be very close to the signs. And I know people use Google Maps and other ways of getting places, but I know that once you get into a town, I've been a tourist And maybe if I'm on my way to one destination, once I get places, it's nice to know that there's other things for me to do in town. And especially with these conversations about sales tax and all the different things that are going on to help with our budgetary concerns in the city. If we're going to lean in and try to extract more money from people in town visiting and ordering online and all the other things, like we could do a better job of directing them to those places. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Catherine, thank you for your comments. That's really, you'll be happy to know I was at a Parks and Events Commission last night, and one of our commissioners is very passionate about signage in our city. She has a particular passion about signage on trails, but I know that our interim Parks and Public Works director is also interested in doing in our city doing a better job of signage for wayfinding and that sort of thing. So please know that this is something that is on the radar of our city, and your comments are really helpful in giving us direction there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else with their hand up, city clerk?
There's nobody else with their hand up.
Nobody else? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to approval of the minutes dated January 3rd, 2024. Did anybody see any issues with those?
No.
Kat,
No.
did you see
No, I
anything?
did not.
There was one thing that I wanted to ask you guys about. One of the things noted in the minutes was that there was something that we were gonna, gosh darn it, I wish I could see all the things that I want to see. I am so bad with screens. There was something on the minutes that we were going to get a follow-up from Emily Artecha on during this meeting that I didn't see in our agenda today. It had to do with capital something or other. Do you remember that from the last meeting, Councilman Holloway?
Well, it was capital facility utilities element recommendation. This item
That's
is
the one.
continued to the next committee meeting for Director Artesia to be present. She wanted to do a presentation. I think we due to schedule or other concerns postpone that.
Okay. All right. All right. But that's still slated for somewhere down the line.
Yeah. You know, I spoke with Emily today about that, and she was mentioning that that's developing slowly. They're still working on that with her consultant, and as soon as she's ready to give that presentation, she'll bring it back to committee here.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so then I guess we'll is there a motion to approve the agenda or the minutes?
So
I
moved.
so move.
Second.
Second.
I'll take that.
Third.
Okay. Moved and seconded, and it's approved. Let's move on to discussion. Meadowbrook Bridge rehabilitation.
Okay, so Hind Ahmed, our project engineer, is going to give this presentation. She has there you are. Hi, Hind.
Yeah. Hi. So, can I share my screen maybe, or let's see if I can share my screen. I wasn't okay.
At the bottom, it says share screen.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just trying to see which screen I have. Couple. Okay.
There you go.
Guys see the presentation now? Okay. I don't see you guys. I'll just start. You can see the presentation, or is it the different screen?
Looks like it's pulling up now.
Is it the presentation? I can't see what you guys see.
No, it's not on yet. I saw you select it though.
Hi, Hind. It looks like you're sharing the other screen.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
you're
see.
sharing the Zoom screen.
There you
Okay.
go.
This one.
Yep. There you go.
Okay. You just
Yep.
get that. Okay. So, hello everyone. I'll be presenting the CIP item to discuss potential change impacting the project scope. It's with the Brook Bridge. It's part of our CIP. Next. Okay, I'll just start with giving a brief background about the project. The bridge was constructed in 1921. And then the bridge was later added to the King County Historic Inventory in 1997. Its inclusion in the historic list introduces additional requirement. And the bridge was basically first maintained with King County until they handed over the bridge to the city. In 2006, the county rehabilitated the bridge. They did a very thorough research and they determined rehabilitation as the most feasible option. And the rehabilitation aimed to tackle structural and functional limitation in the bridge, including load restriction. The bridge was restricted for various types of truck. So the rehabilitation involved welding the bridge, widening the approach, and converting the bridge into one-lane structure to address the load limitation. And they also worked on stiffening the truss. In January 2003, the city conducted a load rating, and this load rating determined that the bridge should be restricted for three specific types of trucks. The city also has applied for a state grant to replace the bridge, but the application was denied in October 2023. Okay, so the project is part of our CIP, and we have approximately 770K available this biennium. The CIB project focuses on structural welding and some repairs along with load rating. But following the load rating that was conducted in early 2023, we determined that there is a necessity to restrict the load on the bridge, the truck crossing the bridge, and the recommendation suggested that instead of just welding and painting, to strengthen the bridge to remove the load limitation. However, if we moved with this scope change, it would lead to a higher cost, longer project duration, and potentially extending the project beyond the current biennium. So our original plan was only structural welding and painting along with the load rating. But after the finding of the load rating, we need to strengthen the truss to remove the load rating. That's adding more rivet, welding additional gusset plate, and enforcing the truss members.
Question?
So, yes.
As shown in the photograph, current load rating is limited to 30 tons. Is the proposal here to fix the bridge to remove that limitation or
Yes.
to revise that limitation?
To remove the limitation.
And what,
why? Sorry, Ethan.
no, go ahead.
So when the project was added to the scope, we didn't have any load limitation at that time. So the project on the CIB was just painting and repair and do rating for the bridge. So the rating came up with the 30 ton. The 30 ton was added there after we added the bridge to the CIB. So this is a new change on the bridge. Why we want to change the 30 ton? It's there is some truck that cross this bridge that are higher than 30 tons. So for now, the presentation is just giving the fact what's here, and then see how the council want to approach the project going forward after what the findings from the load rating.
Can I just follow up on that? And my guess is Jeff was just about to answer the question I'm going to ask, but what trucks what trucks are over 30 tons? What would those be? Would that be like those logging trucks or gravel trucks, or what trucks are over 30 tons?
There is some emergency trucks that are over 30 ton, and it maybe stuff that's carrying construction material would
But
be
there
over
are
that.
fire trucks and that sort of thing that might be more than 30 tons.
I'm not aware of the weight of the fire trucks. We
Okay.
we only restrict for the emergency vehicle. We have EVs type 3, but I'm not sure if the fire truck falls on that or not.
But you're saying that there are emergency vehicles that are over 30 tons that may need to use this bridge in an emergency.
There is emergency vehicle that's over 30 ton. I'm not sure if we have those in city or they might use that bridge. It's I can't say.
I don't fully, I just want to fully understand why we need to remove the 30-ton rating. If there are currently trucks that are going across that are over 30 tons, then they're violating that signage, which I believe is legal signage. They're not allowed to do that, so that's illegal. If you're saying that that regardless of whether or not we put that sign saying that a 30-ton limit is the limit, trucks over 30 tons are still going to go over that bridge because we can't constantly monitor that bridge. Then that's an important point, I think. But also, if there are emergency vehicles that need to be able to use that bridge that are over 30 tons, that would also indicate to me that we'd need to remove the weight limit. If there's but if it adds massive amount, there are other routes to the other side of the river. But so I think that if it's incredibly expensive for us to remove that 30-ton limit, we have to explore how whether or not that's absolutely necessary. Have you already done that exploration? Have you guys already determined
Yes.
that it seems absolutely necessary to remove that limit?
Yeah, and that's where we're going here.
Okay. I'm gonna shut up and listen.
Okay. Yes, and
So
all of that is true, actually, council member. That, yes, it is posted, and 30 tons is not a lot. There are several vehicles on the road which exceed that. And we do have it posted, and vehicles larger than that are not supposed to go across, but we know they do it anyway.
And another thing also to mention, we do have the project is part of the CIB and we're doing work on the project, on the bridge. But after the load rating, we think that the work that we were planning to do is not sufficient. So if we are starting something on the bridge, what's the way to go? Is it just painting, or do we want to work on that, include the budget that we have on the CIB on the rehab? Or this is what we're presenting right now, is this is the situation, this is what was planned for in the CIB. Are we moving forward with just the painting, or are we considering something else? So
when was the 30-ton limit applied?
we did the load rating on January. I believe we did the sign around April, and around that time we also applied for a grant, seek funding for the bridge. And we heard from the grant late October. That's when we knew we don't have money more than what we have in the CIB, and now we're exploring our options.
Okay. What was the load limit when the bridge was transferred from King County to Snoqualmie?
It didn't have a load limit.
There's no limit.
Okay.
Part of the reason it was converted to a single lane bridge was because of that. They could do
Right.
a limitless bridge is a single lane.
Yeah, it was restricted before they converted to one lane, and then they converted to one lane, and it wasn't restricted until last year.
We should also note that, you know, every 2 years, we have this bridge inspected by the county. And, you know, we pay them a fee to come out and inspect it, and they get out there what's called a U-bit truck, an underbridge inspection truck. And they look at all of the structure of the bridge, and we have been tracking this decay of the bridge, the metal. There's a fair bit of sacrificial metal that's built into these bridges, but over the last 100 years, there's a fair bit of corrosion which has taken place, and at the various joints, we're losing some of that metal due to rust and corrosion. The last repair in what was it, 2006, they strengthened some of it. They did scab on some welds, but it's those joints are getting tired, and they're starting to wear through, and we're seeing a lot of metal loss. And those are shown in the inspection reports. Currently, I think
Hold on a second, Jeff. Mayor Ross, did you have something to add?
Well, and Jeff's talking about it, but I'm just thinking eventually it's gonna be lower than 30 tons, right? As the bridge continues to degrade. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to get it rated again. I don't know what our time period is for having to update the ratings on it, but typically every 5-6 years. And then if we notice a kind of a rapid decrease in the condition of the bridge, if our sufficiency rating drops, right now, when they inspect the bridge, they give it an overall score, which is what they call a sufficiency rating. And if our sufficiency rating drops below a certain threshold, then they can literally shut the bridge down. They can say you can no longer use this bridge because it's not safe. So,
Councilwoman Cotton, did you have something to ask?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to tell you regarding emergency vehicle rating that just about every fire engine is over 40 tons. Our fire engine, our fire apparatus is 44 tons. And so if you're dealing with a tender or a ladder truck, they're going to be more than that.
All right, well, that alone is reason enough, I think, probably for us to want to have a working bridge over 30 tons. So thanks for that information, Councilwoman Cotton. And so what I'm hearing from you, Ms. Hind, and Mr. Hamlin, is that we're fast approaching the time when we can't just scab on more metal to support it. We're going to have to do something more significant.
right, and we've done a study on that.
And I suppose you're about to tell us what that stuff is.
That's where we're going. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna shut up.
Okay.
So I'm trying to go to the next one. Okay. So we did explore the option we have. So I'm gonna go walk you through this table. The table illustrates the available option for eliminating the load rating. There is 3 choices. The first one is option 1A is structural rehab of the steel truss. And then we do have option 1B, it's structural rehab of the truss and adding scour countermeasures. There's another option of replacing the bridge. So I'll read through each option, and basically this table will just show the cost, the project duration, what kind of repair we're doing, how long we will have to close the bridge for, and what's additional funding after using what's available in the CIB as of today, what additional funding that we will need to throw in there. Option 1 is only just fixing the truss to remove the load restriction, and the cost for that is around 1.8 million. And assuming we start April of this year, we should go through end of 2026. And for this option, we're expecting a bridge closure for about 6 months. And the additional fund required is about 1.06 million. This is after using the 770K in the CIP already. Any question?
No, well, I mean, one of the things that I was looking for on this table was some sort of indicator of how much it is expected to extend the life of the bridge, like option 1 and option 1B, option 1A and option 1B. What's the expected increased life span of the bridge?
Yeah, so for both options, the repair would say around 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years. The last repair that the county did was 2006. It lasted through 2023, so we'd expect around the same length or little less than that. And then for both options, option 1A and option 1B is basically 1B is adding some scour countermeasures to the truss strengthening, so it's the same. It should last in the same period. The only difference it will be if after we did option 1A, if we did only the truss, we might have some scour issue down the road. We can address that separately. We don't have to go through the truss again, but we presented that option because if we have contractor already inside, we have the mobilization cost, we have the traffic control cost already covered under the truss. So we're already there. We paid a chunk of money for those. We can consider doing the scour repair in the same time. Obviously, the bridge replacement will give us at least 75 to 100 years if we are to replace the bridge. But as you can see, it's the least, the most cost-effective option is the option 1 with 1.06 million needed to go that route. If we are to go with the scour repair, it will add to the cost and to the bridge closure as well. We will have to close the bridge for at least 9 months, and with almost 1.7 extra cost. For the bridge replacement, it will be 18 months of closure to replace the whole bridge and around 16 million extra to replace.
Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes, what's the difference besides the time duration, life of the bridge expected with each one of these? What is the improvement in the weight restriction? In other words, will it be able to hold like 40 or 44 tons between option 1A and option 1B? I'm not familiar with what scour countermeasures are and what exactly that means, but I just kind of wanted to know if there was, besides life expectancy, if it made a difference in the strengthening or weight load that the bridge can carry.
It should remove the load restriction on both of them. That means the load, there will no load limits after the strengthening the bridge. So both options will stiffen the truss to take higher loads.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct. That's correct.
So looking at the numbers that you're presenting here, it actually doesn't seem to make sense to replace the bridge. If we can get 15 to 20 years out of a $1 to $1.5 or $1.7 million fix, that is more cost effective than $16 million for 75 years.
But down the road, the repair won't be an option. For now, we do have the option to repair the bridge. Maybe 15 years from now, you don't have the repair option. So you can do the repair over and over again to buy the 75 years. There is a point where the repair wouldn't be visible.
So we asked the county or the state for a grant to replace the bridge. Did you say that was a
state?
Was the state, and they said no. Have we presented them a 90% off plan? Might they say yes to something like that?
So we did apply for the first one, the replacement, and we didn't get the grant. It was based on they were focusing on off-system bridges that are not part of the system, they're not registered on the I'm trying to, can you help me here, Jeff? Is
Yeah.
what off-system bridges only on that grant?
Yeah, they were focusing on off-system bridges. So there are a lot of bridges around the state which are in varying needs of repair. Some of these bridges are off-system, meaning they are off of the National Highway System Registry. And so they're not, normal course of funding is not available to them. And so we thought, this little bridge, it is an on-system bridge, so it doesn't necessarily qualify, but because of its condition, we thought we had a possibility. There's a possibility we could get some funding to help with the repairs. They apparently have, there's several other bridges around that need it more than we do, and so they gave us nothing. It was worth a shot, but yeah, we fell short on that one. However, so that's because we're talking about funding. I want to bring up a couple important aspects here. There's a rule of thumb in bridges when you're trying to determine whether or not you should repair versus replace a bridge. If repairs are less than 50% of the replacement cost and you can get 20 years out of it, you're better off to repair it than to replace it, unless you can get funding. So our intent was to see what we can do and keep trying for funding. Additionally, with the mill site development, as they move into phases 2 and 3, if they ever move into phases 2 and 3, that will require some type of input from the mill site development to kind of reimburse the city for the impacts that they're going to create on our roadways. So that would be one of them, because a lot of people would access the mill site through that bridge. So we could get some essentially development fees from the mill site development to help pay for that, as well as some additional grant funding when that's available. So at this point, we're kind of leaning towards the obvious, fixing it in the interim. The repair cost being, and I might kind of lean more towards the countermeasures option, even though it's a little bit more expensive. It takes care of a rather burdensome uncertainty with regard to the substructure of the bridge, which is the piers and the erosion and scour that we're seeing around the base of those things. The way the bridge is constructed, it rests on 2 concrete piers which set in the river, and the scour around them is such that the bottom of those piers is exposed, and the piling that those piers sit on are exposed. So it's only a matter of time before those things start to wear away. And we're thinking that it'd be a good idea at this point to go ahead and replace those as well for the additional.
Okay, but Jeff,
Mhm.
I've got 2 options I can't compare. You haven't given me an estimate of, if I were to do option A, when will I have to come back and do scouring remediation, and how much will it cost to do as a separate project? And show me the time basis of money there,
Mhm.
compared to doing option B of doing it all together. I've got, an 80% solution and a 100% solution, but I can't compare them. So until you can tell me, give me some estimate of when scouring mitigation would be required and how much would that cost in the future, I can't compare these 2 options.
Yeah, right. And it's a uncertainty which we have a difficult time with quantifying at this point. I mean, we can go do some more additional work on it.
Most of engineering is, your judgment.
Mm-hmm.
People don't get that. Eventually, the numbers get to judgment calls. They think engineering is just slide rules and calculators, and it comes up with an answer. But no, there has to be judgment applied to some of these, to best, state of the art, your judgment or a bridge person's judgment of what that would be. Okay.
Yeah, we should
Thank
actually
you.
do a little bit more work on that. There's a couple other things, some additional uncertainty around it. So the Meadowbrook revetment, So directly upstream of this bridge, there is a revetment that's built into the left bank, and that is failing. And the county is beginning a project soon to replace that revetment. They call it the pump station revetment, or pump station 4, or lift station 4 is sitting at that location. And so we did a project, you may remember, a few years back to move a sewer line away from the river, move it back from the river, and that created some space for the county to come in and fix that revetment. So they're just getting to it now, and I think they are planning to do that work next year in 2025. Now, that is well, it's definitely going to change the hydraulics of the river at that point. I think that they will try their best to stabilize that situation so that it doesn't continue to create a lot of scour along that left pier. But see, it's a bit of uncertainty that I don't have any control over, other than to do my best to make sure that they address it.
So would this be, if you're going downstream on the left-hand side, so the pier closer to town?
Yep, correct.
And the river is curved, well, looking upriver, the river curves to the left there, right? So
A little bit, yes, that's correct.
So that'd be the place where the faster water would be coming, and it'd be more impact.
Well, yeah, and what we're seeing
Or
is,
just more debris goes to that side, or?
well, actually, what you see more velocity, water velocity on that side, and that is the velocity changes with the depth. So at various flow stages, you get different current patterns. And so with our river, we are at that 2-year flood zone. That 2-year flood period is when we see most of our scour, at least through this reach. And that's the one that does a lot of the erosion on our embankments. Those are the flows that tend to do the most destruction, like at Sandy Cove and at our other revetment that we just replaced over on the River Street or Park Avenue there. So, and that's just based on the model.
Right.
And the models are pretty accurate, but rivers are so variable that, the conditions that develop in one place can be completely different 50 to 100 feet downriver. So we are always dealing with a certain amount of uncertainty with bridges and revetment structures. And that's why we tend to overbuild them. When in doubt, build it stout, right? And in this case, a bridge is one of those things where, you want to make sure that the substructure on them is built stout. Well, here we're in a place where we're seeing, we know that the scour depths on this bridge are pretty deep. When I say scour depths, so that means the area of the riverbed that is subject to scour. That's partially due to the materials and is due to the typical velocities. The lowering of the weir has changed the flow regime along this reach. And so we are seeing changes to the river bottom and to the river embankments on both sides, up and down the river. And this is one place, for instance, the Meadowbrook revetment, which is quickly falling into the river. It's being flanked and they're losing a lot of shoreline just upstream of the bridge. Now, when they go back and repair that revetment, it's going to strengthen that revetment, of course, but it also tends to focus flow along its toe and will create some additional scour, which is going to have effects both up and down the river.
Also, Jeff, I wanted to mention also that the inspection report, there is some local scour in the foundation near the pier. So overall, it's not like coded, the score critical, but we see some spots around the pier in the inspection report.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
okay, are there any more pages to this thing?
That's everything.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, we wanted to give you an update on that to let you know that this is coming. We need to do a little bit more work, especially, with regard to the scour issue. But this is developing quickly, so, we'll be back before you here before too long.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh,
Anything
I would-
else? Go ahead, Miss Ahmed.
I was also I wanted to add some thing to the emergency vehicle. I know there was some talking about the weight of the fire trucks, but when it comes to the emergency vehicle, it depends on the type of the vehicle itself. If it's how many axle we have, what's the load in each axle. So even if it's overall 30 ton or 40 tons, it it needs to be categorized under the legal truck. So I don't want this to conclude that the fire trucks we have can't pass through the bridge. We can we can talk with the fire station and look into their available trucks and come with more accurate data on what trucks can pass and what truck couldn't. But again, on the load rating, when they analyze the bridges, it depends on many other factors. So maybe the truck is over 40 ton, but it's divided over 3 axles, then it can pass. But if it's over 4, it can't pass. So there's some other factors into that as well.
Yeah, axle limit, speed, configuration on the vehicles, it all plays into the calculation.
That's a really good point, though. We should probably be in conversation with the fire department about this bridge and making sure that they don't have any vehicles that would be unsafe on it. We should follow through on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll do that.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Councilman? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hind.
All right, next on the agenda is does anybody have the agenda in front of them? Got this beautiful picture of a bridge. That's all I can see.
Can you,
Solid waste contract.
Solid
yes.
waste contract. There we go.
So Pat Fry is another one of our project engineers, and he has taken over, graciously decided to take over this project, and has some information on what our plans are. Go ahead, Pat.
Hello. I can't start sharing the screen while somebody else is sharing. I think that, okay, not anymore. One moment. Want to be? Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public. For those of you who don't know me, Patrick Fry, I'm a project engineer with the city. I've been here before. And tonight I'm here to provide an update on the solid waste contract. And as Jeff mentioned, I'm new to this contract in the whole solid waste world, so I apologize in advance for any lack of knowledge on my part. But to make up for my ignorance, I have Jeanette Jurgensen of Epicenter Services on the line, who's the city's consultant on navigating and negotiating the new contract. So any technical questions, she will be here to answer. Which also reminds me that she is currently listed as an attendee. So if she could be promoted to a panelist, that would be great. So the purpose of tonight's briefing is just to update the committee on where things stand and the current waste management contract, shed some light on the path forward, and hopefully receive a bit of direction from you guys. But before we dive into that, just a bit of background. The solid waste is typically managed by a city or UTC. In Snoqualmie's case, it's the city, and our procedures are outlined in the Snoqualmie Municipal Code. Contracts cover residential garbage, recycling, and commercial garbage, meaning this contract decides who picks up your garbage every week and how much it costs. Procedures for acquiring a new contract are actually fairly broad and can be done through a number of different methods, including direct negotiation, RFPs, bids, etc. And so this is a bit different than the normal public works contract that have clear procurement methods that we're used to. So there isn't necessarily a single path forward, similar to like choosing the low bidder in a public works contract. So it's just a little different than that. And the procurement method typically takes about a year, or procurement method typically takes 1 year in the RFP process, and then another 1.5 years for mobilization, meaning that this project or process is typically kicked off about 2.5 years in advance of the new contract start. So note that last bullet, as that will come into play. And so where we currently stand is that we currently contract with Waste Management, WM for short, for our garbage, recyclables, compostables. The current contract, it started way back in June of 2012. It ran for 7 years and then had 3 2-year extensions, totaling 6 years of extensions, meaning the current contract expires next May. So that's May 31st of 2025. And the current contract was written permitting up to 3 maximum of extensions, meaning that we cannot extend the current contract any further. That third extension was the last one that we were allowed to do. So we do need to have a new contract by June 1st of 2025. So you might have noticed that we need to have a new contract in about 1.5 years. And I had mentioned that ideally we have a 2.5-year procurement method or process from when this process starts to when we have a contract off. So that is a bit of a difference. And the reason that we got into this position is just because trucks are taking longer from the pandemic. They used to take, call it 8 months, 12 months to receive, but now they take 18 to 24 months. So that's quite a bit longer than it used to. There's been some staff turnover, which has, led to this contract just being delayed a bit longer than we would have liked. And what this means is that non-incumbent haulers cannot be as competitive as Waste Management unless provided enough time to buy the new trucks. So moving forward, what are our options given the current state of affairs? Option 1 is to create a new, we're calling it the status quo contract with Waste Management, and get that set up, and then do a request for a proposal for the new 7-year contract. So it's not an extension of the current contract, it's a new contract with new rates negotiated, and then doing the request for proposal and the 7-year contract. That's that 1.5 year process. And then option 2 would be to just do a request for bid. So that's not looking at qualifications of bidders per se. It's really just getting a bid like the public works contracts that we're all used to. Lowest rates wins, and then we have a new hauler that would start on that June 1st of 2025. And so that would kind of be an expedited process as opposed to that RFP process. So just looking at that timeline, it's, option 1 is we would have negotiations with Waste Management, and then we would hope to have them done before the end of this month. That's January. And then we would have a new contract, just that single year contract with Waste Management in front of you next month. And then all of this year would be an RFP process. So that's, going out to different vendors and just getting our contract all set up, and then having that new vendor, or, it could be Waste Management again, teed up for January 1st, so that then they can start the mobilization process and be ready to take over in June of 2026. Option 2 would be, starting essentially immediately, getting ready to go out for bids, receive those bids in April, and then the new contract would start in 2025. So our recommendation is is to sign a 1-year status quo contract with Waste Management, obviously depending on what those new rates are, and then start that request for proposal process for a new 7-year contract. Any questions? Like I said, I'm here, and as is Jeanette.
Councilman Holloway, and Councilwoman Cotton, any questions on this?
So I guess partially, when we did the last contract, in essence, contract mobilization, everything was 18 months. Understand new world with pandemic and whatnot coming into place. But if Waste Management were to win the bid, they in essence would have no mobilization because they're in place. So I'm not sure we know the mobilization timeframe until we do the discussion with potential candidates to say, you know, if we were to have this, if we were to go request a bid, what mobilization is your requirement?
Yeah.
With that.
Can we jump in here? Let me jump in here a little bit. Here, we want to try to get the best bids that we can. And Jeanette, I think Jeanette's on, and she can explain this very well. And I'd like to give her the opportunity to do this. But we're concerned right now that if we go directly to bid, that we'll only get one bidder, because the other people who would bid for it have not had enough time to purchase those trucks. In which case, we're beholden to the lowest bid, which would be probably higher than we would like to pay. So, Jeanette, do you want to kind of fill us in on this? Jeanette's really good at kind of describing this in terms that we can all understand.
Excuse me, I am the chair of this meeting. Jeanette, would you like to fill us in on? No. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff and Chair and committee members. Mr. Holloway, so to address your point, the new contract is going to require new trucks. One of the reasons we require new trucks is if we look at the current contract, it's about 13 years long with the extensions, and trucks have an average lifetime of about 10 years. So that means that the older the trucks get, the more they're going to break down and leak on the city streets. So new contracts generally have new trucks. One of the reasons why an incumbent can go ahead and move in with that shorter time frame is they can use their old trucks at the beginning of the contract. So we could write into the contract, for example, the first 6 months of the contract, the new truck requirement is waived. But with a non-incumbent, they don't have a yard of extra trucks sitting around to be able to service Snoqualmie. So they would have to try to steal trucks from other locations. And it makes it more difficult and it's less competitive for them.
Yeah, I don't see why we need our trash driven around in fancy trucks necessarily. So then the longer, if we were to contract with our current Waste Management, then we could factor in how long it takes them, that they could use the trucks that they're currently using to the end of their lifespan, and that might make it cheaper. Am I understanding you right, Jeanette?
They could use the current trucks in the beginning of the new contract while waiting for the new trucks to arrive. So it would definitely be cheaper for them. But in order to have a competitive process to ensure that the residents and the businesses get the best rates possible, we want all the different haulers to be on the same playing field, essentially.
I guess that's the part that I don't. Go ahead, Councilman Holloway.
So I guess I'm partially confused by that. So if Waste Management, given the weather we have today, and they're out getting garbage and drives a truck off somewhere and damages it and needs to replace it, are they going to come back to us for the cost of the new truck? Or is the cost of capital refresh and maintenance of the fleet already in the rates and the responsibility of Waste Management?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm but if that is in place, they're already capitalizing and maintaining that fleet. Why am I requiring new trucks for the new contract? Why can't they continue their practice of capitalization, replacement, and maintenance?
Excellent question.
Yeah, yeah, because I'd like that's exactly the question that I was wondering. Why aren't we hoping that Waste Management is just using their trucks to death? What is I mean, that seems like the best way to do it, to get the full life out of their trucks. I hope that we're not trying to make a contract where Waste Management has to spend a bunch of unnecessary capital on new trucks that they can use when they still have several years left on old trucks.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Anybody who can answer that question,
to him.
please jump in.
So right now we have essentially two options, right? We could either extend Waste Management, or not, I shouldn't use the word extend because it's not an extension. We could create a new 1-year contract with Waste Management. They wouldn't get new trucks for that. The expectation wouldn't be new trucks for that 1-year extension. Or we can go out for a bids where we're not necessarily asking for new trucks. We would have to hammer down the details of the new bid language. And it would just be who can fulfill our contract by June 1st of 2025. And I'm just going to use Republic because that's who I have. I'm an unincorporated King County, right?
That's who we used to have. Yeah.
And so Republic, you know, a known quantity, but they might not have enough trucks to pick up Snoqualmie. They just might not have any sitting around in the yard. That means they can't bid on it because they would say, hey, we have an 18-month lead time on the trucks. You know, we were awarded the bid in May, and that means, you know, we're short 5 months. We just can't. There would be 5 months where we can't do any sort of work with the city. And so that obviously just wouldn't work. And so that's kind of the concern right there. It's just making sure that everybody can, you know, get trucks in time in order to pick up this new contract.
Okay, so Mr. Fry, here's my question though. If we negotiate a new contract, say with Waste Management, and they have trucks that have a lifespan of 10 years that only have 5 years on the road, we aren't expecting them to replace those trucks with new trucks within a year, are we?
So we haven't gone through all that contract language, but no, I would not have that expectation.
Okay, so we're not expecting new contract, whole new fleet.
Not necessarily. No, it's just
that seems like a way to really inflate the cost of the contract.
Right. No, what we're trying to combat is that these trucks have a lifespan of 10 years. Our contract might be 10 years. So the expectation is, you know, brand new fleet day one. That's not going to be the realistic thing that happens. But it's a contract that's 10 years and trucks have a 10-year lifespan, which means that, you know, realistically, we are using an entire lifespan of trucks throughout the contract process, whether they're buying trucks day one, whether they're buying trucks year one, year two.
So no, I get that. My only concern is the idea that, well, it's what Councilman Holloway's concern is. Why are we managing that? Why aren't we contracting for the best possible contract and then letting them decide when the right time to get new trucks is? Understandably, that's going to be part of our contracted expense. But if, for example, they're using that 5-year-old truck at the beginning of a 10-year contract and they use it for 5 years and then get another truck, I don't want to pay for the 5 years that truck will be used after our contract is over. Mm-hmm. Right? I want them to manage that. I know the mayor had something to say, and then let's go to Ms. Jurgensen.
Well, actually, let's maybe talk to the consultant real quick, but you only have like 30 seconds left in this meeting.
Oh, Shazbot. I wasn't paying attention. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Ms. Jurgensen, talk fast.
One of the things that we can write into the contract is to require trucks that are of a maximum age rather than saying new trucks. So we do have some wording that I can work with Mr. Fry on to present in the regular 7-year contract. So we can definitely address that either if we take option 1 or 2.
Okay, well, shoot, we did not get through everything in this meeting. I apologize, but we do have to stop because I think there's another meeting fixing to start. Is that right?
Yep.
So can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'm gonna second it because we gotta go ahead and
Can't second
we're
it with
adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right.